First of all, thank you very much that you joined us here in the Frankfurt Storydrive Books with Games. My name is Christoph Holowaty, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Games Industry.biz in Germany, which is a business network site for the games industry. And so today we talk about possible connections and future between two media, which were pretty much distant or pretty much away at first from each other when we see the history of video games and books. So I would like to introduce our panelists right now. I would like to start with Ms. Silja Gülicher, who's from Nintendo of Europe, and she's PR manager, I think, but you're really into the books market, because we take care about the presentations at Meyersche Buchhandlung and all that. Can you maybe introduce yourself a little bit more?
Okay. Can everybody hear me? No? Hello. Thank you. We at Nintendo, we started to address new target groups 3, 4, 5 years ago. We introduced our new consoles, and we were thinking about where can we get closer to women, for example. And then we found out very fast that a lot of women, more women than men, go to bookstores. And so we thought it might be interesting to get in contact with them in the bookstores. And so we started cooperations, for example, with Meyersche Buchhandlung or Google. And in Cologne, for example, there is a shop-in-shop where people can sit down and enjoy video games like we and Nintendo DS. And yeah, and that's very exciting.
So then we have Peter Buckley, and Peter, you're very much into travel guides and things, but you're more into electronic travel guides. Is that true?
Yeah. Is this on? Yeah. So I'm Peter Buckley. I'm a digital publisher for both DK, Eyewitness Travel, and Rough Guides. So I cover both the brands and basically in charge of all their non-print products. So yeah, I do a lot of stuff with EPUB and apps and partnerships and exactly this kind of stuff, looking at where we can partner with games companies or whoever to sort of do something new with our content.
Thank you. Then we have Alastair Horne, and Alastair is from Cambridge University Press, so very intellectual, isn't it?
Thank you. I'm the Innovations Manager at Cambridge University Press, particularly looking at education and English language teaching, and very interested in what we can do with games. We're very aware that there's a lot in common between the learning process and the gaming process, and that if you can actually make learning into a game for children, then it's actually going to be far easier to get them interested in and far easier to get them learning effectively. So we're currently looking into what we can do with games for that reason.
Okay, thank you. It's good to know Nintendo changed completely the way we look at video games. So some years ago, video games were well, shooting games and platform games and stuff like that. And then I went to Japan after you introduced Nintendo DS, the small handheld. And the first thing I've seen were cooking guides, travel guides, English translation, and that was not an exception, but they had complete departments with non-game software for a gaming platform. So do you think that this really enlarged your audience and made it more accessible to more people who are not really gamers, may play a game, but who are not really gamers?
Yeah, this is a very interesting effect, because now the focus is not on the medium itself, on the video game, but on the content. So this means when we offer, for example, WeFit, which is the training program, I think that a lot of women who buy it, they don't recognize that they bought a video game right now, but they think that they bought a device on which they can get better fitness at home. So what we found out was that, for example, at Weight Watchers, there was a big community, and women talked about how they lost weight with WeFit. So I think we stepped out of the situation that there's just only video games for hardcore gamers and strategic games and so on. But we shifted the look and thought about, okay, which content can be brought onto the video console? And for example, when you look in the bookstores and you see the cooking books, there's a cooking game. You see the fitness books, there's a fitness game, and you can continue that. On the other hand, of course, there has been video games beforehand which were a little bit similar to books, for example, which had a narrative course for, like, for example, Zelda. When you follow a story, you follow the hero, and at the same time, you have to solve puzzles to get further. So I think there's, it's not the question if there's books or if there's video games. I think the question is how can both support each other, and where is the benefit or the, to broaden the horizon of both.
Can I add something to that? I think what you say is absolutely right. I think the way to look at it is that both from the gaming perspective and also from the publishing perspective, it's really just a change definition. And what we're really talking about is experiences. And what books have always been about has been about triggering an experience, whether it be to cook a recipe or to visit the Eiffel Tower or whatever, whereas gaming has always been about actually describing and creating that experience. And I think that's what we have to think about as publishers. I'm assuming there's a lot of publishers in the room here, or people with that as a starting point, but we've got to look at the gaming industry and not as games as what we understand games to be, but just to say this is all about experiences and how we can learn from the gaming industry to create experiences.
By the way, there's one thing not true what Ms. Gülicher said. She said Wii Fit is only played by women. I lost 60 pounds last year with Wii Fit. It's true. Good. But when we see travel guides, it looks a little bit more easier to understand that you could fit in technologies, you know, from the video game business. But Alastair, what do you say when we're talking about learning games? What technologies or what experiences could you use you have seen in the video game business?
Well, I think probably the most important thing is the level of engagement and involvement you have when you're playing a video game, which is very different to sort of the traditional, very cliched idea of sitting in a classroom receiving learning from a teacher. I think there's room for both of those, but you know, when you're playing a game, you're trying to achieve something. You're trying to learn skills. When you achieve those skills, you're tested on them. If you can get through, you know, one level, you try a more difficult level. All of these things are exactly the same in education. You're trying to learn how to do things. You're then tested to check that you can do them, and then you try something more difficult. So there's such a parallel between games and education there that it would be really foolish for us not to be thinking about what we can do to make educational games, particularly on platforms, you know, like the DS and the Wii, that learners are actually already very positively disposed towards. You know, if you give them a maths textbook, there's immediately going to be a sort of switch-off factor, because this is a format that they associate with school, whereas if you've got a maths game on the DS, then you've got an immediate positive there, because this is something they associate with other games that they've played.
That's very interesting. Do you work together? You have a pretty broad range of products already in the electronic side. But with whom are you working when you develop products? Classic game developers, independent studios, and what are you doing there?
Well, most of what we've developed so far has actually been for the classroom and has been sort of PC-based. But we're very interested in what we can do with, particularly with the DS. So we were put in contact with some UK developers by Tiger, the Independent Game Developers Association in the UK, and they've set us up with a couple of developers who we're looking to see what we can do with. Because we very much appreciate that whilst we've got the sort of the pedagogical side of this, and we really know how the educational aspect of this works, it'd be really foolish for us to try to move forward on this without actually working with the people who know best how games work. So we're looking to partner.
So Ms. Gülicher, you're often also using or including brands like Dr. Kawashima or other brands from well-known book publishers. How important is that for you to maybe justify or also include in development people who really know what they're doing?
As everybody knows, educators do have a very classical education. So, of course, video games are on the bad side of the powers. So this means we have to work together with editor houses, publishers who are well known, for example, Horne or Tivola. And I have to say, we worked with several schools and include the products, for example, mathematics, into the classes. And it's true that the children, they like Nintendo and Nintendo DS, so they are very motivated to train their mathematics skills. And the good thing is that when the device tells you that you're not that good, it's less hard for you than if the teacher does it in front of the class. But interesting is also that the children only accept Nintendo DS, the device, as a device for education until the 6th class, for example, 5th or 6th class. Then they say, okay, school is my job, and I want this job to be finished at a certain point of time in the day. And after that, they don't accept Nintendo DS games for training their skills. They don't accept it anymore, because then it's just a device for your hobby.
That's interesting. So, when you see travel guides, and when you see all the new technology we have, like 3D graphics and 3D stereoscopic 3D, what do you think is the most important technology you could use for travel guides? How would you do something interactive out of travel guide, which is more or less an atlas or something, a dictionary? No.
Yeah. Well, without doubt, the single most important bit of technology that's happened for travel is GPS and geotagging, and the fact that we can enrich all our content and make it completely geo-specific has just opened up an enormous